Hello, Live Love readers. Today we're going to be reading Chapter 2 of Dog Heroes, Magic Treehouse Fact Tracker. In 2007, a Boy Scout got lost in the mountains of North Carolina. People on foot and in helicopters looked everywhere for him. On the fourth day, he was still missing. A search and rescue dog named Gandalf and his handler arrived to help. Gandalf's handler gave him a good whiff of the lost boy's shirt. The dog sniffed it for a long time. Finally, Gandalf put his nose to the ground and took off. It wasn't long before he picked up the boy's scent. After tracking him for a while, Gandalf jerked up his head and barked. Roof, roof! This was a signal that the boy was nearby. Suddenly, someone spotted him lying, huddled beside the trail. The lost scout was alive. How did Gandalf find the boy after 4 days? He did it with his great dog nose. Humans get most of their information from their eyes. Dogs get it from their noses. They can smell 1,000 times better than humans. Great noses. Have you ever wondered why dogs sniff everything? Their constant sniffing stirs up hundreds of smells. 40% of their brain power is used just for figuring out what they're smelling. Millions of scent receptors or scent cells lie inside their noses. When dogs inhale, the smell goes to these receptors. Then the receptors send information to their brains. Dogs get more information from their sense of smell than from their eyesight. They form a sort of mental picture based on what they smell. Dogs are so good at smelling that they can pick out a single odor even when it's mixed with hundreds of others. Like reptiles and many other animals, dogs have an organ on the roof of their mouth called a Jacobson's organ. This organ actually allows them to taste smells. Dogs can track a scent even if it's several days old. They can smell things deep underground. They can smell a body underwater. They can smell things up to a mile away. SAR dogs. SAR dogs search for victims of avalanches, earthquakes, hurricanes, and other disasters. Every human has his or her own smell. When people move around, their skin cells flake off and drift to the ground. Gandalf is a tracking dog. SAR dogs, like Gandalf, are trained to track a scent left on the ground by a person's skin cells. By sniffing the Boy Scout's shirt, Gandalf knew how the boy smelled. He found him by tracking the boy's scent. Other SAR dogs are air-scenting dogs. They hold their heads up to catch a human scent floating in the air. These dogs work best in parks and open fields. Some SAR dogs are especially trained to rescue people in avalanches. Others are water search dogs that work in boats or along the shore to find drowning victims. Nick Carter, dog detective. Nick Carter was a great dog. He was a bloodhound that lived in Kentucky in the early 1900s. Nick and his owner, Captain G.V. Mulligan, worked for the police department. Nick Carter's job was to find missing people and criminals on the run. Bloodhounds are an old breed. For centuries, they've been famous for their tracking ability. Bloodhounds have close to 300 million scent receptors. That's more than almost any other dog. Nick Carter was an expert tracker. He was famous for nabbing people on the run from the law. Nick never gave up and once followed a trail more than 4 days old. During his career, he helped capture over 600 criminals. Nick is known as the greatest dog detective of all time. Heroes in the Alps. The Great St. Bernard Pass is a 50-mile-long road in the Swiss Alps that links Switzerland to Italy. Today, the pass is a modern road and tunnel. For centuries, however, it was just a rough trail. During the winter, icy winds and snow battered the area. The snow can be over 33 feet deep. In the past, travelers often froze to death, got lost, or trapped in deep snow, or were buried by avalanches. For years, a group of monks and their St. Bernard dogs lived in a monastery near the pass. They rescued many people from certain death. The monks chose St. Bernards because of their size, strength, and gentleness. Their thick fur coats made it possible for them to work in very cold weather. The monks trained the dogs to work in teams of 3 without people. The big dogs plowed paths through the deep snow as they walked. Their amazing senses of smell and hearing helping them locate many travelers who were in trouble. When they discovered someone, one of the dogs would race back to the monastery for help. The other 2 dogs used their big paws as shovels to dig the persons out of the snow. Then they gently licked the victim's face to wake them up. Finally, the dogs would lie down on top of the stranded traveler until the monks arrived. Their huge furry bodies were much better than blankets. It's hard to freeze to death when a Saint Bernard is on top of you. Barry. Barry was the most famous Saint Bernard ever. He lived in a monastery in the early 1800s. Barry was fearless. He often ventured out late at night during terrible storms to search for people. Barry saved over 40 lives. After he died in 1814, the monks honored his great dog by always naming the bravest of their dogs Barry. Now, rescue teams use helicopters to search for people. Only a few monks remain at the Great St. Bernard Pass. Their dogs have all gone to live with families, but every summer a few return to welcome visitors who come to see the famous dogs of the St. Bernard Pass. Hunter in Haiti. On January 12, 2010, Haiti had a horrendous earthquake. Buildings collapsed, trapping many people underneath. Dog rescue teams raced to Haiti from the United States. Los Angeles firefighter Bill Monhan was on the scene with his border collie Hunter. 4 days after the quake, Hunter and Bill were still crisscrossing the ruins. It seemed impossible that anyone remained alive, but they hadn't given up. Hunter went back and forth over the piles of concrete. Suddenly, he gave his alert bark. Woof, woof. Hunter had found 3 girls trapped under 4 feet of twisted steel and concrete. They were still alive. Bill quickly passed water bottles down to them. One of the girls whispered, "Thank you." Because of Hunter and Bill, the girls survived. German Shepherds, Labradors, and Border Collies often make good SAR dogs. But SAR dogs do not have to be a certain breed. They just have to be smart, strong, and hardworking. They also have to be willing to work in all kinds of weather and under all kinds of conditions. SAR dogs are very tough dogs. Training search and rescue dogs. It takes about 600 hours to train SAR dogs. SAR dogs. Here are just a few things besides tracking skills that they learn to do. Obey basic commands like come, sit, stay, and heel. Focus while walking on a loose leash, even when there are noises, passing joggers, or other distractions. Obey for a long time when told to sit, no matter what else is happening. Remain calm while going through tunnels, getting into tractor buckets, and being lifted 10 feet in the air, and going down mountains in a harness. Climb up steep A-frames, jump over objects, and walk across beams that might wiggle. Ignore other dogs, not sniff them. Climb rope ladders, and wiggle even more than beams. Okay, you guys, we'll be back for chapter number 3. Toodles.